Welcome to Quill Sword Blogcast. Is the world going crazy? Nope, it's just straightening out a few messes. Unfortunately, political messes are seldom straightened out quietly. So while there's a lot of stuff exploding at the moment, it's a relatively minor readjustment. Major readjustments involve world wars. I vote we skip that this go round. At present, no one is doing anything that involves the U.S. showing up with our idea of overwhelming force. While quite a bit is going on, it's not World War level. It's mostly Keystone Cops level with real guns. I didn't say minor meant nice. So, from the least interesting, France seems to be on track for Republic number 6. Don't get excited. France hasn't been a contender since they ended their monarchy and decided to borrow every dumb idea the so-called Enlightenment ever came up with. This mostly means they occasionally start implementing some really good ideas like becoming energy self-sufficient, only to dismantle that in favor of more fashionable, dumb ideas like saving the world from fossil fuels by becoming more dependent on them. Not even kidding. This is why we mostly ignore France. Heck, most of the French seem to ignore France until it steps on their toes. France isn't unstable. It's just hopelessly weird and takes itself way too seriously. The current government collapse is no surprise. Parliamentary governments do this kind of collapse all the time. The shenanigans the current president pulled to get a government more to his liking just delayed the inevitable. The French left is mostly Parisian, the nobility wannabes claiming to represent democracy. They seem to be losing whatever rank and file support they had. Same story across Europe. France just has to be special about it. They'll be fine. Well, as fine as every French Republic ever gets. Syria's collapse is much more severe, probably. Look, it's got way too many moving parts, and Syrian analysts are clueless at this stage of the game. The Assad government is definitely gone, but it's anyone's guess as to what will shake out as the new governing power. Besides the four big players, Assad, Russia, Iran, and Turkey, we have Israel and the U.S. playing supporting roles and a cast of thousands in terms of militant and rebel groups. This could go pretty okay. Depends on the insurgents. If they can carve up the turkey without shooting each other, this could be the start of something great for the Syrian people. I hope so. But insurgents have a long, long history of turning on each other when the ruling power fails. Israel has the right idea by blowing up as many weapons as they can during the chaos. Russia is fleeing to protect its assets. Ships and planes ain't cheap. Iran is mostly low-key, but probably covering their backsides while trying to capitalize on the power vacuum. Turkey is also trying to gain even more influence in the beleaguered country. The U.S. is just monitoring for the moment. Russia permanently losing those bases is nothing but good for the Ukraine and the U.S., and probably some good for Africa too. Sending weapons and chaos is a lot harder from St. Petersburg than from Syria. Hysterically, Russia is putting another bullet in the corpse of realpolitik. Evidently, they forgot the USSR killed that sucker with its own downfall. Russia's sphere of influence is getting a mite small. This won't collapse the Russian regime, probably, but it sure ain't gonna make it healthier. Iran is finding out why playing kingmaker isn't as safe a strategy as everyone thinks it is. Israel toasted Hezbollah with a little help from the U.S., or rather, little help from the U.S. Iraq is a useless mess, and without safe passage through Syrian airspace, Iran's fangs are effectively pulled for the moment. If Trump renews the sanctions as expected, Russia can't bail them out, and their ability to project chaos is about to get curtailed. Between that and the existing unrest internally, Iran is not going to be having a good decade. Turkey is the biggest headache. The current government wants the Kurds gone. The Kurds want a state of their own, and they hold territory along the border with Turkey. The U.S. has a long-standing alliance with the Kurds and doesn't want Syria turning into another failed state, or worse, another Iran. The CIA will have their hands full. Everyone thinks the U.S. is the world's policeman. Well, they're wrong. We're the world's Forest Service, dumping water on every brush fire we find. Would that it were ever that simple. There's no easy answer, and it's impossible to say what is best as far as the factions likely to form the new government. Ultimately, the Syrian people will have to rebuild their nation. All we can do is buy them some time and breathing room in which to do it. Maybe. Sorry, but international relations rarely have predictable happy endings. Oh yeah, South Korea. That's more interesting simply because it's so rare for South Korea to totally lose its internal cool like that. My best understanding is that it is mostly internal. It's probably not North Korea making a move, but it's silly to assume that North Korea doesn't have a finger in the pie somewhere. But masters of political strategy, the North Koreans are not. So this one probably is just the South Korean government having a very weird collapse. Maybe they didn't want to be outdone by France. Dunno. But after this level of craziness, most parliamentary governments collapse and have new elections. We'll have to wait and see. But this kind of thing is why having U.S. troops manning the DMZ is a good plan. Parliamentary governments collapse the way most people change socks. Mind you, the overall governmental form is usually pretty stable, but the administrations can be extremely unstable. Not the guys you want in charge of keeping the crazies out of the yard. Both Canada and the UK are proceeding down the authoritarian path. Canada is a year away from ditching Trudeau. I doubt UK's Labour government survives that long. Trump made a joke about Canada becoming the 51st U.S. state. If they actually pass that crazy law making potential crimes punishable, Canada will likely have a couple of successions within a decade. Alberta and Saskatchewan would likely apply for territorial status within the U.S. shortly thereafter. Oh, and even if Canada did become the 51st state, it wouldn't have 50 electoral votes. Those are limited to 538 at present, and would only go to 540 if we added a new state, 2 senators. The House is limited to 435 total representatives. Canada would get 38 or so, most of those being drawn off of New York, California, and Illinois. But it's much more likely that Canada will fracture first, adding individual provinces as states. Ottawa, therefore, would not gain much power. But that's years in the future, probably. I mean, they do have one more year of Trudeau. I'm surprised Canada has survived this long. So no, the world isn't going crazier than usual. As always, we have to remain vigilant. We live in a neighborhood of crazies after all. But there's no need to panic. Wait until the U.S. actually starts sending troops that can't be loaded into less than 100 ships. That's when things get real bad real fast. But not today. This is just the run-of-the-mill world straightening out its various messes. Probably.
Update. I wrote this last week. Yes, I'm old and cranky for a reason. Anyway, I decided to post it as originally written. There's a lot in motion and I'm not ready to draw more firm conclusions at this point. P.S. So, I didn't post this when I thought I would. Not a whole lot has shaken out yet, so I'm not updating this at this time. I'll be revisiting most of this stuff in the next few weeks, so it's going to get updated eventually. Don't get old and cranky. Really does nothing for your work schedules. Back on schedule now. The District of Columbia gets 3 electors because of their observing members of Congress. The district has no official members of either house. U.S. government is fun. Yes, that's sarcasm. Sorry about the dripping.